Cuba,
Yes.
on the verge of democratic vote to make gay marriage and adoption legal. Last month, Cuba's parliament announced a new family code that would legalize same-sex marriage as well as allow same-sex couples to adopt. The new family code will be voted on by the Cuban people in a special referendum on September 25th. In 2019, activists had pushed for an amendment allowing for same-sex marriage to be added to the Constitution, but the government removed it just before the vote after pressure from the conservative and religious groups. There are those that fear the family-approved family code will be modified in the same way before the referendum can be held. Kudos to Cuba, though.
Hey, listen, we
About
were
time.
there. It's happening out west, and I swear, we went there as a production, and we did not go there to start a riot, but apparently one did break out while we were there.
Coincidence.
And
you started it.
and we were celebrating LGBTQ. It was the first, I believe, the first Pride. And it was amazing. Our people are there and they get to be seen and heard. Maybe this is the first step to healing that machismo and that, just that discriminating way that is really deep in our Latin communities. And maybe we can start when a country like Cuba, and when they can make this kind of decision to help make a space for LGBTQ in their communist, fascist country,
I'm amazed.
then maybe some other Latin countries will then follow lead.
Well, I'm sorry, were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, this was discussed on another evening here on Queer News Tonight with Al, and I forget the guest anchor. And on the one hand, yes, it appears like progress, but it seems more like posturing to me. I know many people from the exile community, and I know the realities of the history of gay people in Cuba, how they were forced into labor camps. Some of you might remember the film Before Night Falls from 2001, and that depicts the reality of homophobia. So unless we're all equal, it goes back to that civil rights thing. It sounds good, it looks good on paper, but if the country is still a dictatorship and people don't have civil rights, so congratulations, you and your husband got married, but please go work in the sugarcane factory. Or you get arrested.
Well, if everyone is working in the sugarcane factory, I'm going to say that this is still a step in the right direction. You get what I mean?
I hear you.
I hear you too, and I'm sure that for a lot of Cubans, it means a lot, especially to be able to adopt. I know that that's very important in Cuba right now. But let's also consider that Cuba is coming, or is still, in a dire economic state.
No.
People were out on the streets protesting every day. Of course, we don't get to see most of it, but we were, because of social media, we were able to see it because they were dying of poverty and they didn't have access to a lot of healthcare and stuff like that. So I can't help but feel that this is a way to give the people something without giving them much. Because as important as gay marriage is and gay adoption is, in a dire situation that Cuba is in, how important can it be?
It's posturing to appear progressive while censoring and arresting people. And also, as tourists going to the island, I'm sure you had a lovely stay at a hotel and ate very well, whereas the people who live there don't. Yeah. So we can't forget the reality.
Well, the reality of that is yes, it could have been an insulated trip for me. Right. But my wife and I are not those people. Yeah, and we went out into the public. We went down the streets. We got lost in different places, went down the alleys. I must have walked, I don't even know. I probably walked the island. Okay, I'm not going to lie. But the reality of it is that I see that. I hear what you're saying. I do. But we have to really try to do our best to recognize when we're moving in the right direction. Because if we don't celebrate these small wins, there will not be any larger wins to follow. Because we come from then that place of it's just not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough.
Well,
yes, dictatorship, we have a problem. Yeah. That's the overhead,
Even in countries that are not dictatorships in Latin America, places like Colombia, places like Venezuela, who do have rights and protections for LGBT, even marriage rights and adoption rights. A lot of places in Latin America have come around since 2016. However, the culture is different. The way that the police handle hate crimes is not really there. And so there's a lot of people who are still suffering, even in those democratic countries that have, on the paper, some rights protecting LGBTQ, but in practice, it's quite another thing.
I come from a country, sorry to just throw this in there just to piggyback on it. I come from Guatemala, and Guatemala is an American ally, is a capitalism, it's fully democratic, right? And there's no gay protections, there's no abortion rights, there's no gay rights. It's a dire state for women and queers. But we are an American ally, and we're supported, and we're called a free country. So, you know, it's almost like, it's so weird that
it's a hypocrisy.
It's a hypocrisy.
It's called hypocrisy.
You have to figure out what free.
So if tomorrow they came up with some gay thing in Guatemala, some gay rights for marriage, which would be crazy, I would be very skeptical of.
Can I give you some stats? 4 LGBTQ plus people are murdered every year in Latin American, Caribbean countries. At least 1,300 LGBTQ people are murdered in Latin America. 90% of those murders occur in Colombia, Mexico, and Honduras.
Wow.
So, and those are countries that are not dictatorships under a communist regime. So it's a cultural thing, and it's something I don't know how we're going to get past, but I mean, a lot of it is rooted in colonialism, and a lot of the homophobia is rooted in colonialism. And I can explain that if anyone wanted to know. But
when we think about that too, because I mean, this conversation could get really deep right now, okay? Because honestly, now you're opening up a Pandora box, you know? When we're sitting here in the United States and we're looking at, you talk about, you know, Cuba posturing. Well, we could probably say the same thing about the United States.
That's
a lot of our gay.
I was actually going to make that point. It's actually really crazy.
In my belief, the Democratic Party uses gay rights to posture all the time.
I mean, and clearly it's happening in Guatemala, right? A free democratic, you know, U.S. ally. And so when we're talking about this, I just look at it, I try to really see the silver lining.
You're right.
Because we can see it as posturing and throughout many nations right now. And the reality of it is, as a LGBTQ community, we have to be working on getting us unified.
Absolutely.
And that's us Latinos, because my God, how many shades of Latino are there? You know what I mean? And then and then everything, and then everyone else. So, and you know, we have, you know, a young person here, a high school student sitting at the table involved in this conversation. And I think it's so important for like your generation that you're Z, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I can't keep up.
No. Don't worry. I'm not an iPad kid.
Oh, okay.
I'm not an iPad kid.
Hey, man, use it to your advantage, you know?
But it's great. It's great. And especially for the Cubans there, who I feel have been living with so many, you know, feeling really not supported at all by their government stuff. It must feel amazing to have achieved maybe that. Because I do give you that. This has to be the product of the fighting of many Cuban activists there.
But we need the stats.
Anyway,
we need you to keep that.
We need to move on to our next story.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.